If we want to establish quorum, which I don't even know if that's necessary. Mr. Vice Chairman, nice to see you. This morning, we wanted to go through, and we always do this, but after the state of the state, we generally like to get a rundown from the administration on just kind of high-level priorities. Obviously, the committee's always free to answer or ask any questions that they choose, and I'm glad we've got a handful of directors from departments here this morning. But with that, Mr. Hogg, whenever you're ready, you want to give us a kind of a high-level overview
Yes.
of what we're dealing with in the next fiscal year.
Yeah, so for the record, Dan Hogg, State Budget Director. I'm going to sort of hit the revenue estimate, sort of overall budget, and then you guys have this in front of you, and I'm going to go through a few of the specific items in there and hit those. Please, if you have questions, just stop me, when you need something. All right, so the consensus revenue estimate, which was publicly released about a month or so ago, is basically flat for FY 24 and 25. The revised 24 estimate is a decline of 0.7%, and the FY 25 estimate is an increase of 0.2%. So basically flat, but honestly, I think flat is really pretty impressive performance for our revenues, because before COVID, we were about $9 billion, $10 billion of general revenue. Now we're over $13 billion, and to be able to stay at that level and not go back down, I think shows the strength of the economy. We've also since then had a couple of tax cuts, and so I think having those tax cuts and still being able to have the revenue that we can support the budget, support a budget that provides Missourians what they want and what they need, I think shows that those tax cuts were done in a responsible way. Just so everybody remembers, as of January 1st this year, the income tax rate fell to 4.8%. I will say that the revenue estimate for FY 24 and 25, if we hit those estimates, that will not trigger the next rate increase yet. The rate increase is triggered by decrease, my bad, yes. I don't ever remember going up. In the modern era, I don't ever remember going up. So, but anyway, there are additional rate cuts to 4.5% that are triggered by a $250 million increase in general revenue. So flat revenues will not, but certainly in the future, those are on the horizon. The governor's budget leaves a general revenue fund balance at the end of FY 25 of $1.5 billion, a little over $1.5 billion, about $1.6 billion. We will have a fund balance if we hit the revenue estimate and our spending estimates are right of a little over $3 billion in FY 24. So you can see, we had fund balances in GR of $6 billion. We're going down to, we're around 4 now. By the end of the year, we'll probably be around 3. After FY 25, we'll be at 1.5. So as we talked about when we got all this one-time money, that we wanted to spend this in a responsible way and step this down, not just have a cliff that we're falling off of. So I think the budget that we are proposing accomplishes that, and also leaves the next governor in probably better shape than any governor's ever come into office. I know Governor Nixon had to withhold when he came into office. Governor Greitens had to withhold when he came into office. Governor Parson had to withhold not too long after he did. So it's not this is pretty historically unheard of to leave a governor this kind of fund balance. And the governor has been very clear that, he's in this for the long haul. This is not just about his administration. This is about the state and what we can do for the future in keeping the state in a strong financial position. We also currently still have our AAA bond rating. We're one of, I think it's down to about 10 states now that have that. And so we're very proud of that. That also is saves us a significant amount of money. When we're bonding, we get better interest rates than almost anybody else. When we bonded the first tranche of the I-70 bonds, we got under 4%. So I think that shows that sort of some of these independent evaluators see Missouri as a strong financial entity and are willing to take on our debt and feel comfortable we're going to repay them. So that's sort of the big picture part of my presentation. I'll take questions on that, or I can get into the specific items that are in the budget if you want me to.
I'd say let's go ahead and start working through
Okay.
the shortened version of the budget book.
Yes. Yeah, this takes about, 10,000 pages and gets it down to about 20 here. So, so just some of the highlights, and a lot of this was in the speech last night, so I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anybody. But we are fully funding the K through 12 education formula, $120 million increase. That brings the funding through the formula of $3.7 billion. Also increasing the school transportation line by $14 million to fund that again. That's the increase. Total of $361 million in that line. So that takes care of the state's statutory requirement on transportation for K through 12 education. Before this administration, I don't remember if it's ever been funded before, but we've done that the last couple of years. We are increasing the child care subsidy payments. Currently, we pay at the 58th percentile for all the kids, the infants, toddlers, preschoolers, and school-age children. So what we're proposing to do with this $51 million is take infants and toddlers to 100%, because that's where we see the greatest need and the biggest difficulty, and then take preschoolers and school-age to 65%. We feel like this really enhances our funding and makes it go to where the need really is, and this is a little more targeted than just sort of throwing huge dollars at it and seeing what happens. We know that infants and toddlers is really the sticking point of getting people back into the workforce.
Okay.
Senator Searpoy?
Thank you. Dan, I'm sorry, I want to go back a little bit. You said our in-state revenues were $9 billion a few years ago, right?
Yes,
Before
2019.
COVID, and now they're 13.
Yes.
So when we hear all this talk about the biggest budget ever, mostly that's federal money. Our actual taxing on Missouri has gone from 9 to 13 through this inflationary period.
Yeah, and the rate's gone down, so the
Right.
percentage of their income that they're sending to us is less. So the total budget here for FY25 is $51.8 billion. Before COVID, our budget split was roughly a third GR, a third other state funds like highway, lottery, those kind of things, and a third federal. Of this $51 million, 25.7 of it is federal. So our budget has moved to basically half federal right now because of all these ARPA funds that we have. And as we spend those down, I expect we'll get back closer to that third, and a third. But yeah, the biggest growth in our budget is most of this COVID federal money that came in. Unlike other states, I feel like have done a good job of spending that on one-time needs. And so, again, we're not going to see this big cliff. Other states did not do that, and you see a state like California that has their biggest budget deficit ever, and we're looking at one of our biggest surpluses ever because I think of the responsible budgeting we've done over the last 2 or 3 years when we got this huge influx of money.
What is the inflation rate since before COVID? Do you know what that is off the top of your head?
Before COVID,
to now?
I don't know. It was in that 2 to 3% range, probably closer
Right,
to
but
2.
since COVID, I guess I should say since COVID. What
We
the effect
went
was?
up to double digits for a small piece, but now the last CPI I saw was low 3s.
But I guess what I'm asking is, from the beginning of COVID till now, what is the effective inflation rate overall, if you combine it?
Yeah, I'd have to go look at that.
Okay.
We can go figure
If
that
you would
out.
have somebody do that, okay.
My economist is very smart.
I just
She'll
get
figure it
tired
out.
of hearing about how we got the biggest budget ever and we're
Yeah.
not doing anything. And
I
I think
mean,
that's all crap. But
Yeah, no,
I
I
think that's
mean,
all
we could,
true.
one of the things, maybe what you're asking, what we could do is we could take the FY25 budget and put what that would be in FY 2019 dollars, and you
That'd
could
be
sort
good,
of then
something like
see
that,
the
yeah.
difference
That'd be very
without
helpful.
inflation. That's sort of something economists do, and I know my economist could do that for us.
Senator Rader?
Thank you. So can you explain the child care subsidy to me? Because I don't understand where it says taking it to 100% for infants and toddlers.
Yeah, so we will, and if we get too into the weeds, Dr. Moses is here. But so right now we pay basically 58% of what is the market rate, I guess. We do a market study and see what the market rate
For the
is.
subsidy, so for the folks that.
So if you are taking your child on subsidy,
Are
we're going to pay
approved.
58. Let's say the rate for a toddler is, and my kids are in their 20s, so this is probably going to be way off. But let's say it's, to make the math easy, $100 a day.
$180 a week.
Just say $100 a day.
Say $100 a day. That makes the math easier for me sitting here. Right now, we would pay $58 for that kid to go to.
So this is what we're paying the providers, so, and
Yes.
I do know that right now,
Yes.
we're not paying the providers the full
Yes.
kit and caboodle, which is why they're having trouble staying
Yes.
open.
So
Okay,
for infants,
got
we
it.
would pay the full market rate because we know that's where the struggle really is finding those slots for infants and toddlers.
Right.
The school age and preschool, it's a little easier. There's more options out
It
there.
is,
You
and
can
it's
have bigger
cost less for
classrooms.
walking around kids.
So teachers can have more kids versus the infants where it's just a couple. So we're going to go to 65% on those, up from
Okay.
58. And that's $51.7 million we're adding to that line in the budget.
Gotcha, okay, thank you.
Senator Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dan, along the same lines as Senator Searpoy, I too kind of get tired of hearing how bloated our budget is. Do you have any sense of once the COVID funds, ARPA funds are gone, do you have a sense of what that budget will settle back down to? Do you have any sense of that at this point?
So, look, this is speculation on my
I-
part.
I understand.
But my guess would, and it's going to be several years before that happens because we have till the end of calendar year 2026
Right.
to spend ARPA. And we did a lot of big projects that are going to take a lot of time.
Right.
The health lab is going to take some time.
Got
So
it.
It's going to take a few years. In 2019, we were at about 29 billion on the budget, and so if you look at where GR and other funds are, I think you're probably going to settle in that upper 30s maybe.
So
But that's going to be 7-8 years down the road.
but still significantly lower than we are
Oh,
right
yeah,
now,
yeah.
obviously. And
Yeah.
I get tired of hearing this
Yeah.
the same thing
I
over and
expect
over
to
as
go
well.
back to that third GR, third other funds, third federal, once we get all this ARPA money spent and out the door, unless something drastically changes on the federal level.
Right, okay.
But I do think also, that general revenue number going up like that shows that we have a very healthy economy. I mean, it's not that we raise taxes to get more from these people, for our citizens. It's they're making more. Their wages are up. We're creating more jobs, and we're actually taking a smaller percentage of that income from them, but we're getting more money because the economy here in Missouri is so robust. As the governor said in the speech yesterday, we hit a historically low unemployment rate. We're still very close to that. We're doing well economically. Now, I will say, since I was an economist before I became budget director, I did do this forecasting. I do think things are going to slow down and moderate in the economy overall, but I still think we're going to have a strong, vibrant economy. But, the growth we've seen is not something you expect to continue.
Thank you.
Senator Arthur.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was happy to hear the governor announce that he wants to increase the baseline teacher pay to 40.
Yes, that was going to be one of the ones I was going to hit.
Am I
here just in a
jumping
second.
ahead?
That's
Okay.
okay. Go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to ask if they intend to fund it in the same way
Yes.
with matching.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same program. We're just increasing the participation from $38,000 to $40,000. So everything else stays the same.
Okay. So there will still be some.
There still
local
will be. I mean, I
school
think-
district effort.
Especially this administration and a lot of the things we do. But we like to partner with the locals and others. I mean, we don't want to, we want to put a hand out to help them up. We don't want to just do all of it, And so I think that you'll see in a lot of the things we do, we're trying to partner with our locals on a lot of different things. And I think this is just part of that. But I think that, this is a program that I think is going to really help, and getting that 40 is going to be helpful. The other thing I'll say, and I think this maybe kept participation down a little bit. Last year there were some rumors that this was like one-time funding. This is ongoing funding. If I remember right, it's funded with lottery, right? GR. So it's GR. This is ongoing funding. Somehow from the House it got talked about that this was one time, and I think districts were like, well, that scares me a little bit. This is going to be in the budget as long as you guys leave it in. I mean, this is core funding now. So just like the formula. So
Okay, thank you.
Senator May, you have a question?
Absolutely. First of all, I want to, say thank you to our union members and skilled trades for upping, increasing the number of people that are actually working in skilled trades. That's why you have a robust GR, because we put a lot of those people to work in the skilled trades. And I want to thank them. I also want to thank our Fight for 15 people who have been working with different corporations and businesses to increase the hourly wage of workers. So, that's why we have a robust GR. So I want to thank those individuals who have been working across the state on both sides, Kansas City and the urban area. So I definitely want to give them credit where credit is due. Now, my question is this, very simple. Where is, you talked about the ARPA fund. Have all of that money been allocated? And where are the unspent dollars? Because we're still including it in our budget.
So, yes, so House Bill 20 is where we have all of our ARPA funding. And so what we have done is typically if we have a project that's over multiple years, which most of these ARPA projects are, we move it into House Bill 17, which is our reappropriation bill. But we thought it would be more transparent and easier for everybody to follow if we just left it all in House Bill 20. So say, for instance, you had an appropriation that was $10 million. This year, they've spent $2 million. We would put it in the budget for $8 million so that they would spend it down. And we expect that to happen. We expect House Bill 20 to be around for probably to at least, FY 27, I guess that would be.
Okay.
So, yes.
Very
And I'm
good.
sure I'll be here presenting House Bill 20 to answer any and all of those questions.
Thank you so much.
All right. So a couple other things on this page I want to hit is the 3% increase for our higher education institutions. This is a 3% core increase for all the 4 years, community colleges, and state tech. That takes their total core funding to $1.12 billion. On the next page, I want to just real quickly hit the second phase of our higher educational capital improvement projects. We put those projects in last year with half the money. This is the other half that you see there, the $314 million. You see the projects listed. I will tell you that there are a couple that have asked us to change their projects, and when we get into House Bill 20, I'll be happy to go into detail on those and let you know what's going on with our universities. But we want to be good partners with them, and we think they had valid reasons to change those projects. Next, I wanted to hit MoExcels. We're doing our 5th year of MoExcels. These are the employer-driven workforce education programs, training programs in our schools. So we have another, our schools have worked with their local employers and come up with areas that there's need for additional people in the workforce, and they're going to try to train those folks up. So we've got an additional $54 million there. That takes the total funding for that program in the 5 years we've done it to $165 million. Senator May, to your point, I want to hit the upskill credential training and the youth apprenticeships. We are trying to make sure that for those kids who feel like college isn't their best avenue after high school, that they have other opportunities. So we, as the governor said, are one of the leading the nation, one of the top states in apprenticeships, going into those trades. And this upskill credential training where they can get credentials to go into those trades and other areas that don't require a 2 or a 4-year degree. So we're trying to make sure that we are making sure that everybody who comes out of high school has an avenue and an opportunity to find a job that they can be proud of, that can support their family. If you skip over to page 13, we got $1.5 billion in federal broadband funds that the governor talked about. That's in addition to the, I think it was $400 million-ish or so that we've got in the budget right now. Wanted to hit a couple of the highway and transportation items we've got in here. We've got $290 million for the STIP, the Statewide Transportation Improvement Program. That takes that up to $14 billion, which is a huge increase over what it previously was. We've got an additional $93 million for the low-volume roads. that are in poor condition. And then also, as the governor talked about, we're going to take the interest that we're earning off of the I-70. You know, we've got a, $2 billion just, in a fund that's sitting there, and right now we're earning decent interest off of it. So we're going to transfer that into this I-44 improvement fund to get us off the ground. But I will say there's already $150 million programmed in MoDOT for I-44 projects, and to get us to the point where we can have a cost estimate. At this point, I have not seen a cost estimate on that, and so that's why we haven't put that in the budget at this point. Is we've got to do some of these initial steps to get to the point where we have a cost estimate on that and can make sure that we're doing it in a responsible way.
Dan, on the low volume roads, where did we come up with $93 million? Because
I think
we put $100 million in there for the last 2 fiscal years.
So this is the reappropriate of that. So 7's been spent on that.
Only
So
7's been spent thus far in this fiscal year.
So it's 200 over 2 years,
Correct.
and so there's 93 left of that 200.
So no new money going into rural roads.
No, just we're
talking about a
continuing it.
continuation
Yeah, we're
of-
continuing. Yeah, and I may have misspoke on that. If
Okay.
I did, I apologize.
No, you're fine. Thanks. Senator Mack.
So we have this rural roads poor condition fund. So what about urban areas and the roads in urban areas?
I'm not a highway engineer, so that's probably better for MoDOT to talk about when they come before you. I know you guys will be having a hearing with them, so I know we're putting significant money into the urban areas out of MoDOT. I'm sure a significant portion of that $290 million that's above that will go into urban areas. But for specifics of that, Director McKenna and MoDOT can give you those specifics.
Right, because when we're talking about the transportation, you're talking about the 290 million. Is that, because I know I-70, our improvement project for I-70 starts where?
My understanding is it's between Columbia and Kingdom City.
Okay. And so it goes all the way to Kansas City, right?
Yeah, it goes from St. Louis all the way to Kansas City. We're starting.
No,
it's
no.
Well, I mean, to the south. It's already 3 lines.
It,
Blue Spring, Kansas City to St. Louis areas. Blue Springs to Wentzville, but
yeah, Winsville is not St. Louis.
but there are 3 lanes. After you get to Wentzville, there are 3 lanes already.
Okay, so it's going from Winsville to Blue Springs.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, that's not St. Louis and that's not Kansas City.
area.
But we're good.
Metro area.
Metro area, we're good, we're good. I'm just trying to figure out, where the MoDOT responsibility roads come in. So MoDOT, where's MoDOT at?
Yeah, Director McKenna.
Oh, there you go, right there. Oh, there you go.
If you want,
I just
he'll
want
be
to
able
know
to give you much
where
better
those MoDOT
details that
roads come into the urban area. That's all I want to know.
Yeah, if you want to.
Yes. Where those MoDOT roads come into the urban area?
I'll remind the committee, as we work through this, we're going to work through every department, every department's
we did
budget.
that
So
one year.
this hearing was meant to be kind of a high-level overview before we start diving, Senator May,
Isn't it?
directly into every department's budget. I mean, obviously, free to ask questions anytime.
Absolutely.
But we will have a whole day devoted to MoDOT later on down the road. Pun intended.
And yes, I'm definitely aware of that. But I might forget the question
Oh, I can't imagine.
before then.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman,
McKenna.
members of the committee, Patrick McKenna, Director of MoDOT. Thank you for your question, Senator. The reflection first of the $290 million, that is the construction program expenditure account for construction projects all over the state. So it's just the reflection of our estimate for 2025, and because that account has been growing with the federal funds and the state funds that are in there, that's part of it. I'll leave you with this. Sorry, I didn't bring copies for all, but this has the map
Thank
of
you.
where we're going to start and stop. And as Director Hogg mentioned, we have project limits here, which are to fill in the gap where we don't have 3 lanes at least on I-70 going into St. Louis and into Kansas City. In many areas, we have 4 lanes in
Yes.
each direction. So We've already done some of that work, but I can assure you that St. Louis in our current STIP has nearly $3.5 billion of work going on in the Kansas City district in the limits and in the St. Louis district, and then we have a couple $1 billion in Kansas City as well.
Okay, very good. I'll take that.
All right, thank you.
Director, a quick question. So on the
Thank you.
I-70 expansion, we're obviously adding the third lane that you described. Is that also going to include resurfacing of the two existing lanes on that same stretch?
We are running essentially engineering competitions for each of the segments. We have 6 project segments. We're going to let the condition dictate that.
Okay, makes sense.
We do think that probably on average it's going to be 2 out of 3. So we're going to get a brand new one lane that'll be brand new. Probably on average an additional brand new second of the 3. And then in certain areas, what we're finding in our testing is that the surface is in decent condition. We'll try to reuse everything we can to minimize the cost, and to get as much value and length out of it. Good example of that is what we're doing on I-55 in Jefferson County right now. And that's essentially what's happening. We're getting about, on average, we're getting about 2 full-depth reclamations, brand new lanes, and then we're using one of the third lanes that's in pretty good shape still.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, if we want to go to page 17 now, hit a couple of things on this page. I'll start with the state employee pay plan. So all state employees will get a 3.2% increase this year. And then I think there's been a little bit, I did see one place in the press where this was reported incorrectly. I think a lot of places got it right. But for our congregate care agencies, so you're talking our DMH hospitals, our state schools, our in judiciary, the juvenile detention centers, the youth services facilities and DSS, and the veterans homes. For those where we've really struggled keeping employees and attracting employees, we are going to do a 1% salary increase for every 2 years of continuous service, capped at a 10% increase, so a 20-year employee would get that. This is the same thing we did this is the exact same thing we did in corrections right before COVID. And I think corrections has seen a positive impact of this. And again, it's a similar 24/7 type of facility, and those are where we're really struggling. And so this is only for those, it's not for those whole departments, it's just for those facilities. We are really struggling there, and we feel like this is something that we need to do to stay competitive in those markets. But we do feel really good about the 3.2% we're giving to all state employees. We're before this 3.2, we were over a 20% increase during the governor's administration, so this just continues to keep that going. And we feel like this 3.2% keeps us competitive with our pay plans. Couple others I want to hit on here. At the top of the page, the Facility Maintenance Reserve Fund. This is money, GR, that we put into our Facilities Maintenance Reserve Fund, which is the fund we use to do our maintenance of our state buildings that we own. By Constitution, we're required to transfer about $120 million into that, but in good times, we think it's important to put more money into there and build up some balance there, because I will tell you, in the bad times, the first thing I did, the Constitution lets me not make that transfer in the bad times, and that's the first thing you do. And we get behind on maintenance, and so we want to get ahead on maintenance, get a balance built up here, because eventually we will have some leaner times, and we want to be prepared for that.
Dan, on the pay plan, real quick.
Yeah.
In the past couple of years, we've had a supplemental
Yes,
budget appropriation
this is
for
a
that.
good
When
point.
when is that?
So we are not doing the pay plan in supplemental. We are
Okay,
going
so this
back
is fiscal
to
year.
our normal July 1st
Got it.
pay plan. We
Okay.
feel like the labor market is at a point where we can do that and don't have to do these, right away pay plans. So, no, that's a good point. There at the bottom of the page, I want to hit a couple. The social services call center improvements. This is $4 million to help our social services call centers. We expect this is going to decrease wait time, Also make it more efficient with the information we get so there's less errors and that kind of thing. And we really want to make sure that we're providing good customer service to the folks that are calling those call centers. And then we have a $3.9 million support and improvement of our foster care. This is for recruitment, licensing, management, and support of our Missouri foster families. And then a couple of caseworkers in the St. Louis area where we're seeing some issues where we need a little more help there.
Senator Arthur.
Can we just go back to the social services call center improvements?
Yes.
Because, and I know there will be opportunities to ask more questions about this, but based on this description, it's funding for a chat box.
That's part of it, yeah.
Okay, what else is
And
included?
I think it should actually be chat bot, not
Chat-
bots, but
Chat
I'm
box.
a numbers guy, not a word guy, so that happens sometimes. Yeah.
It's just going to be a Dan AI that answers people's
Yeah,
calls.
I think you want AI that's a little smarter than me. Yeah, I mean, I think this is some automation that can help us answer those calls, and there are certain calls that you can take care of with just the
It can
chat
also
bot.
really
And some-
frustrate people. So, is there additional funding for more people, or
I think that I don't think there's
Improved.
more people as part of this one. If you guys, nope, Pat, no, there's no more people, right? Yeah, this is just technology trying to help us.
okay?
I mean, we've put people in the past there, so I mean, we're trying to, see what we can do also with technology. Trying to hit it from both sides.
Thank you.
We also cut people.
All right, on the next page, just wanted to hit a couple of things we're doing for our veterans. We're doing, at our veterans homes, we're doing a technology upgrade. We're upgrading the anti-wander system. That's getting old, and we want to make sure that we keep our veterans safe, so that's something that we're making sure we do. And then the other thing, it's not a lot of money, but I think it's something that's going to be pretty impactful, is we're getting an electronic medical record so we can share those veterans' medical records with the VA, and so that their care is more seamless when they're in our veterans' homes. If you go to page 22, so we're putting $14.2 million into opioid prevention, treatment, and recovery expansion. This is also expanding access to the naloxone and the fentanyl
Dan,
test
is that
strips.
opioid settlement money?
That is almost all opioid settlement money.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Senator Mack?
yes, since we're talking about the opioid settlement money, when you say treatment facilities, because we really don't have hardly any
Yeah,
that
these
we can go
would-
to in the urban areas, so that wouldn't be
It's not state facilities. This would be contracting with private
already
providers.
existing.
Yeah, existing
facility.
substance use treatment facilities and providers.
We'll have another conversation about that.
Yes, ma'am. Also on that page, wanted to talk about the $1.5 million we're putting in for veteran homelessness and housing needs through the Veterans Community Project in Kansas City and St. Louis. Also, we are adding $1.4 million to the crime lab budget to support additional testing for DNA, toxicology, and firearm care, as well as continued backlog reduction in sexual assault cases. On page 23, wanted to just hit the enforcement of foreign ownership of land. We're putting an office within the Department of Ag to monitor that, and some people there to be able to, keep track of that and make sure that we're following the executive order.
That's to make sure that private landowners can't sell their property to whomever they choose, right?
I think it's to make sure that we follow the law that's on the statute that, 1%? And
Yeah.
this is not totally my
We're not,
bailiwick.
okay. We haven't gone any further than that. We're just making sure that we're adhering to the 1% cap that was established.
Yeah, and I think the executive order
8,
is
10 years
also
ago.
around military bases
It
and
is.
those kind of things. So, yeah, it would make sure that we're following the statute and the executive order.
Yeah. Senator Searpoy.
Thank you. I'm just curious, how does that work? I mean, titling and things are a county responsibility. How do you all keep track of all that?
I'm not sure exactly how Director Chin's going to do that, and I'm not sure she's figured it all out yet. I mean, it's
Because the
sort of
state really
work in
doesn't have a
progress.
hand in buying property. I don't understand how.
Yeah, I think we're still figuring that out.
All right. Thanks.
If you want to go to page 27, we have $86 million for treatment of Missourians with behavioral health and developmental disabilities. This will allow us to serve an additional 1,260 individuals with behavioral health needs and 1,900 individuals with developmental disabilities in need of residential services and in-home supports. That's the growth we're seeing in those programs, and so that's what we're putting in there. We are putting $10.4 million for recovery high schools. This is enhancing treatment services in recovery high schools in Kansas City and St. Louis for students diagnosed with substance use disorders. This allows them within the schools to get those substance use treatments and other mental health services that they need to get them back on the right track. We have $7.2 million for fetal and maternal mortality prevention plan to provide support and address preventable deaths of babies, expectant mothers, and postpartum mothers. And then I think that's it. $50 billion in half hour.
So we like it. Any other questions for Mr. Hogg at this time from the committee? Dan,
And I will
appreciate you
say
coming in this
that,
morning. Yeah.
you know, our more detailed executive budget is on our budget and planning website, and as each of the budget books get put together and printed, those will also be on our website. So for any on the committee or anybody listening, that's
So
where you
off the
can
top of your
access.
head, I meant to ask you when we went through it, but the $10 million for semiconductors, is that running through MTC again? Do you know? Do you remember? It's in DED this year, not? It had been in, I thought we ran it through MTC last year. Okay.
Let's check. I know
Okay.
it's in 7. I
That's
can't
fine.
remember if it's
Yeah.
DED or MTC
Okay.
at this point. It's all a blur right now.
Any other questions from the committee? Oh, sure, Senator Rager.
Just so I'm understanding all this, so like when the opioid dollars come down, the opioid settlement dollars, and then we allocate that,
Yes.
so that makes our, but, and from the same line, questioning that you've already had, but that makes our budget, like what we're spending.
Yeah, that
number
increases our
quite a
budget.
bit more.
Yeah.
So something like that from a settlement
Yeah.
even increases what our budget
Yeah,
is.
that goes
not-
into that $51 billion. That's correct.
Perfect.
One
Okay.
other thing,
Thank you.
actually, one thing I probably should have hit and forgot is that I do want to make sure to let the committee know that over the governor's term, we have reduced FTE by 350, and that is with having to add FTE for medical marijuana, recreational marijuana, Medicaid expansion, raise the age. Those are all significant FTE that we had to add. But even with that, over the governor's term, we've been able to reduce state FTE by 350 people. Slots, it's not really people. We didn't lay anybody off, but, you know, positions, so. Than we did in 2018 when the governor took office.
Any other questions from the committee? Senator Black.
Yeah, Dan, I didn't get involved in this when you were discussing it earlier, but probably in Northwest Missouri where that one-year discussion may have come from, but give me an idea, how long does this budget last?
The budget lasts 1 year.
And the one before lasted?
1 year.
And the one before that?
1 year.
And the one before that?
My recollection is 1 year.
Okay.
But I will say, in all of those budgets,
Now, wait.
we had core funding for the formula, and I think we're treating this similar to core funding.
I'm just
for the
telling you
formula.
why you can tell people it's Rusty Black's fault.
I
I worked for those people in schools and was in the middle of a superintendent meeting that I'll attend again in February. And remember that one, you don't know, but that's where I worked before. Guess how long my budget in the ag department lasted?
1 year.
For 33 years, it lasted 1 year, and it was cut 4 times because I went out and raised money from the outside. So whenever that discussion was, we can't count on you guys, us, because it's only 1 year funding. I responded every budget last 1 year,
Sure.
including the one that you put in front of me. You know the intent is to keep that funded, but if crisis happened, decisions have to be made. That was it. So if you took any backlash from me, then I apologize, but I still think I'm right.
Thanks, Senator. Senator Bean, did you have a question? Oh, fantastic. All right, no other questions appearing. Dan, again, appreciate the time, appreciate the overview, and we'll get into some regular department hearings. I think we've got Desi on Wednesday next week. So here's to a short Thursday, folks. This meeting's adjourned. It's all right.